in the West that did not have a slow growth, anti-growth movement. Why was that? It was because it was one of the largest cities in America that rigorously controlled the design of new commercial and industrial development. What it looked like, how it was arranged, how it fit in their community. And as a result, the development that they got was always consistent with the character of the community. And people weren't fighting the development all the time. And guess what happened? Now, Phoenix, Arizona is the largest city in America with design review for new commercial buildings. And why is that? Because they were losing all their business to the high-quality developments in Scottsdale and Tempe next door. They realized, once again, that the image of a community is important to its economic well-being. I don't care who your new employer is, it can either fit in or not, depending upon how the facility is designed and where it's located, et cetera, et cetera. It can, yes, it could create all kinds of traffic congestion. Or, suppose you put it right on the Metro North line, for example. With a rapid transit line there. There's a lot of ways to do this kind of thing. I mean, one of the things that we figured out in Maryland, where I live, is there's a couple of things. One is that we figured out is there is a direct relationship between sprawl and the spiraling costs of government. We have also starting to figure out, that there's also a relationship, once again, I've talked about this before, between the neglect for the public realm and the breakdown in public safety and community in America. And a lot of this depends on thinking about where we're putting development and about how it looks and how it fits in, et cetera. So, yes, I think you can have lots of new development, just you need to think about creatively how you accommodate it, which will only come out of a plan which only grows out of having consensus. Yes, sir.
My name is Joe Salt, Director of Rating Projects on building. I deal with people on a day-to-day basis on every problem that you can possibly think of, whether it's transportation, roundable, whatever, you name it, we deal with. And the one most important thing that I like to say to us, to everybody, is the fact of cooperation. Without that cooperation, you're going to go absolutely nowhere. You have people here that are very green, you have people here that are very business-minded, and somewhere you have to find out the best work together and the best create any project done. You're not going to do that in the get-go. You're not going to get it done. It's never going to happen. And that's about all I have for you.
Well, I second the motion.
I feel a committee forming and starting to work, but unless you have that cooperation between all the parties, you're going to have a very, very difficult time.
I was talking about the street standards issue, narrow streets, verticalized streets, et cetera. The way I got personally interested in that issue, I was at a conference a couple of years ago, a developers conference, and it was about new residential development. And almost to a person, the developers, this was in the state of Virginia, were complaining about VDOT, Virginia Department of Transportation's road standards in subdivisions. And they were talking about, once again, they were saying, that's where I got the line about, they make you build roads wide enough to land 747s on. They're all complaining about it. Sitting next to me at this conference is a guy who works for the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, which is the largest environmental organization in the Washington metro, Maryland, Virginia area. And he turns to me and he says, I completely agree with him, but for totally different reasons. And it just occurred to me, there's so many things like that. Well, gee, why don't you get together with those guys? If the developer types, they go down to talk to the highway department about changing street standards, everybody just thinks that, you're just out to make a buck, and they don't pay any attention to them. If the environmentalists go down there and say that, it's just the environmentalists. If they both went together, what an incredibly powerful lobby that is. And yes, in fact, now Virginia has changed their street standards because of exactly that kind of thing happening. Cooperation is what made that happen, and that's what can make things different in communities as well. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I'm president of the Tuxedo Chamber of Commerce. Probably we would have had a much better turnout tonight. The problem is that this big meeting in Suffolk of people protesting the proposed quarry that's going to take place in Warren Brook. I guess you're familiar with this. And that's going to have, we talk about Groundhole River, and that's going to have a dramatic impact on our area here and the large movement to try to stop that from happening. But the question I
The answer to that is yes. Frequently, just to give you an example, Chattanooga's motto, by the way, is invest in a city that invests in itself. And when they created this vision, they didn't just leave the implementation of that vision to a bunch of volunteers. They created an organization. It's called Chattanooga Venture. And that organization actually had a staff of about 10 or 12 people. And half of the money was raised by the private sector, half was provided by the city of Chattanooga. And they had full-time people working on implementing the plans that came out and, cutting the red tape, doing all the things you need to do. So I think, yes, I mean, clearly, small town can't afford, 10 people like that, but I think you do need people whose job it is to see that some of the ideas you come up actually happen. I mean, we need volunteers, and they are the lifeblood of our communities, but we also can't only rely on volunteers. But you got to, one of the things I should say, you got some tremendous organizations in the state that have professionals who can help. You got groups like Scenic Hudson. You got so many other organizations that can do these things. But yes, I do think you need staff to implement things. Yes, sir.
Ed, I'm Steve Turner. I'm the accountant planning consultant. One of the things that we found is very difficult over time is to convince people that something good can happen. In other words, your presentation really highlights the fact that there are good things that can happen and some of the ways that they can happen. We don't have a lot of examples in this immediate area of good things. There are, good development, a lot of good things, and nature is one of them. But in terms of good quality development, it's hard to illustrate good examples, and we can use slides, and we've tried in the visioning process. Have you had some experiences in communities where you've had that kind of reaction that says, yeah, that's very nice, and that community has been able to accomplish quality development and convince the corporate heads that they should redesign some of the standard designs, but it's not going to happen here.
Every place says that. Every place says that. Every place thinks, you couldn't do that here. Yep.
I've had a few different things I've done in my life, okay? And I remember when I was a young boy, working out in Brooklyn Heights, which was a hole, an absolute hole. And we were doing a rehab job on a home that was owned by a woman in Val Vegas. I think he was the editor of the New York Post. We first started to gentrify Brooklyn Heights. When you go out there today, you're not going to touch that house for less than $1 million, okay? Those things are nearby, and that was individuals that struck out, in an area and turned an area around. And to say that it can't happen here, I'd love to see something like this in this area up on your screen somewhere.
Well, I do agree with your comment, though. I think most people have no idea what good development looks like, because we haven't been building very much of it. There's a lot of it. I mean, somebody like me, I go all over the country. I hear about these things. I'm a member of the Urban Land Institute. I go and see these places. I collect this stuff. But you got more good examples than you think. And part of it is, I think one of the things we need to do is education, and more education. Give people a sense of choice and, about what the future could hold. And, I rely on people's good judgment to, people make pretty good choices when you actually know when they know what they are. But, somebody in New York, Scenic Hudson and other groups can collect those examples for you. You can actually bring people to places, But even then, you're always going to have people who are cynical about things. You're always going to say, Will Rogers used to have a great line. He used to say, a cynic is someone who knows the cost of everything and the value of nothing. We need to think more about the value of what we're trying to do in our communities. And once again, money is going to follow a good idea, and that's being proved over and over and over again all over the country, and it's creating a sense of hope about the future. I have a friend who's a mayor of a small town down where I live, and he says, sometimes, you just got to, damn it, you just got to do it. And then everybody, all the naysayers then all of a sudden come along after, but if you just listen to all the people who say, no, you can never do it. Christopher Columbus would have never discovered the New World, for example, or anybody. So many people would have done all the great things in history. So many of them would have never done it. They just know people who never said it couldn't be done. Of course it can be done, and people say those kind of things every place. But, you know, once again, it's about having the faith and the hope and the belief in our citizens that they can make their lives better and their communities better. Well, I'm not going to keep you all night, but
And I don't mean to interrupt, but unless there's something very pressing, I think,
Yep.
regarding to the cutoff program. I will admit that we exhausted Ed. I think he's been up at the veritable crack of dawn, and he's had to put a lot of miles on. And I, again, want to thank you so much for being here. It was most inspiring, and I want to thank also everyone here this evening for attending. But before I let you go, I do have, yeah, could you, Carl? I think there's
One quick thing.
a survey that we'd like to have filled out.
Yeah, there are two things, actually. If you missed any part of Ed's presentation, please pick up his handouts outside the door. He came with a lot of information. And then for helping us, I'm Carl Beard with National Park Service and one of the partners putting this on. We have this little very brief survey sheet. Answer just a few easy questions about what you would like to see happen next in this kind of information series, what ways we can work with you better in the future. Please just give us a few check marks, a couple of your ideas, and leave it in the box outside on the table. Thanks so much.
thanks
Thanks
again
again.
for coming, everybody. Appreciate it.